Hey, Vino.
What up, what up, what up? Welcome to another episode of New Orleans Basketball and New Orleans Network podcast. As always, I am your host, Raphael Rattler, joined by my fellow middle brother, Garrick Rattler. What's popping with you tonight, bro?
What up, bro? Getting ready for that Mardi Gras feel that's starting to slide on. Happy King's Day to everybody who celebrates, this past week. Mardi Gras is coming, so everybody's getting in the festive spirit. And you know what's helping the festive spirit? The Saint season being finally over, and the Pelicans going on a world tour of ass whooping. So that's a thing that's happening. But everything's all good on this side, man. How's everything on your side?
Everything is blessed. Not a whole lot to complain about so far in 2024. So before we get too far into the show, make sure you guys follow us on X, on Twitter, on IG, on TikTok. That's NO Basketball, no E. Make sure you're liking the episode below. We see all your comments. We appreciate all the love. Trying to get back to each and everybody for all the comments and questions that you have. So keep them coming. But make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. So the Pelicans won tonight. In case
did they
on national television?
Goodness.
On national television at that. That marks their 7-game road win streak, and they're not playing slouches on the road either. Like they're playing Minnesota's and the Warriors, and you're playing solid teams at home. They had 8 players in double digits tonight. They're 11-7 on the road. This is a team that, again, is still like figuring themselves out, like still figuring out this is how we need to play night after night. But over the last 2 weeks, you can kind of see the light bulb turning on. So, again, you got 8 players in double digits tonight. You win by damn near 40 points, 141, 105. Talk to me about how the Pelicans literally came out and was like, oh, yeah, this is an under 500 team, and we're going to treat it as such. So talk to me about what you saw tonight.
Yeah, how many times, all this season, especially like later towards where we are now recently, how many times have we talked about like exercising demons, right? So let's just talk about some of the things that the Pelicans exercise just tonight, right? Like you got the offensive demons that, we've seen pop up, not recently, but come up. We've seen second half demons, right? Where the Pelicans give up second half leads and things like that. The Steph Curry demon, right? Who seems to just, every time they play the Pelicans, he seems to have all of his sliders up to 99 and does miraculous things as recently as this season. The Golden State as a team, right? Like the Pelicans seem to always get somehow, some way outplayed at the end or things like that. There were late game demons that you don't even need to like look them in the face anymore, apparently. And it's just like tonight was eye opening because listen, the Warriors are under 500 team, but all that gets thrown out when Steph Curry gets on the floor. And every game he is capable of going for 30 and 40 every single game, right? Like the season might have been bad, but like if you go step on the floor with Steph Curry, you know that he can, what he can do. And you saw it from the beginning. Like they came out and they were playing. The Pelicans were attached at the hip. They were moving as a unit on defense. And Zion said it post game. They asked him about the offense and putting up 100. His first thing that 140 points. His first thing that he said was, it starts with our defense playing in transition. And the Pelicans are showing that that's where the money is made for them. Solid defense, with perimeter defense where the shot blocking is not even it's not even an issue with JV on the floor or anybody, because just you it's so hard to get around Herb and Dyson and Najee, and like Zion is locked in and playing good defensively. Brandon Ingram is locked in playing good defensively. CJ McCollum is being a pest just with his hands. He's getting a lot of steals at the basket, and what that's doing is getting them in transition. And when this team gets in transition, I mean, it is very difficult to stop this team when they're playing at their peak. And so, just some of the things that you saw tonight, these are the things that the Pelicans seem to be getting around. I tweeted about it. Like, there's no answer for the Pelicans inside. There is no answer for a front court of Brandon Ingram, Zion, and JV. There just isn't. You don't have enough talented bodies to do it. But when the team who is scoring, who you don't have an answer for on the inside, is hitting everything from the outside, then what do, right? You saw it in this game. They started to try to box. They obviously was game plan towards Zion, but in that third quarter, like, they were like, well, damn, everybody else shooting, we got to start getting out there. He goes for 17 in a third, and Zion just people's elbowed them in the fourth quarter and put them away. So there's just a lot of things that seems to come together, that's coming together for the Pelicans. And I think you can point to one thing, and one thing only, for this entire run, this entire time on task. When you looked at that Lakers game in Vegas, the 44-point loss, it felt like, if you looked at Twitter and you heard people talking, it was like the Pelican season was over. It was done. It was a wrap. But like we said on this podcast, like, it sucked. It was terrible. It shouldn't have been on TV. But like, you had other games to play, and the Pelicans, the resilience that this team is showing right now, bouncing back from that Vegas debacle and coming out on the road and dominating Minnesota, Sacramento, Golden State, teams with championship pedigree, teams with high expectations, teams with young stars, and the Pelicans are just dominating them, putting them away early and often. And I think time on task is where you can point to this. Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ are finally starting to figure the offense out and starting to buy in the fact that, listen, there's a lot of talented people on this team. We're not going to look like the Dallas Mavericks with Luka and Kyrie going for 60, 65 a game, or LeBron and AD having to go for 40 apiece for the Lakers to have a chance at winning. They're not going to look like that every single night. Now, there are nights with Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ, we've seen it go crazy. But every single night, it doesn't have to be that. And when they start to do that, and you start to see your stars buy in on the defensive end and buy into unselfishness and buy into ball movement, there's no reason for anybody else to slack off in any of those in any of those areas. So I think the Pelicans are rolling right now. They are one of the hottest teams in the league, if not the hottest, and they are just going to be tough. And that's what I tweeted about Friday. We're going to get into Friday, man. How they've been playing. If this team goes into Denver and looks anything like they've looked in Sacramento or Minnesota or San Francisco, there's going to have to be some conversations being had about the New Orleans Pelicans.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you talk about how they came out, on fire, couldn't miss from three. CJ starts them out, gets them going. He's hot early. Their first 6 shots were threes. But again, with this team, you got to know what kind of threes were they. And a lot of them were predicated of Zion penetrating to the goal and kicking out for wide open threes. Like, even Doris Burke and even Doc Rivers were like, these guys are wide open. Like, the gravity that Zion and BI and JV bring inside, you have to bring a body or you look stupid for not. And so it's almost, you talked about it all off season long, making people make bad decisions. And the thing that looked different tonight, Zion missed a couple games, just coming back from or missed a game just coming back from the bruise or whatever. But the thing that looked different tonight is, like, he just let the game come to him. Like, if he saw the double, especially in the first half, he saw the double, he was just making the easy, correct read over and over and over, and guys were rewarding him, right? Herb Jones, we talk about that. We'll talk about him further. Like, he's shooting the ball without hesitation, like, especially those corner ones. He's letting it go like, hey, yeah, I'm wide open. I can make this shot. Then we have to talk about the other part of this that again, we've been talking about everybody who watches this team has been screaming for, calling for. As soon as you sit down, a Zion, as soon as you sit down to Brandon Ingram, instead of Najee Marshall and instead of Jose, who was apparently available tonight, the first people you bring off the bench are Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins. And all of a sudden, it felt like the Warriors were just getting ambushed, like a Mike Tyson haymaker, where it's like, okay, Zion sat down, we get a break. All of a sudden, oh shit, there's three-point runners everywhere, right? Like, what do we do? Jordan Hawkins is stepping in the game. I'll tweet this out. I would never get tired of watching this man call for the ball with Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy, and he does not care. And you saw the remnants and the effect. Now, something I think we should give a little credit to for Willie Green, again, he's been of the mold that he would like young players to take their spots, to take their minutes, right? You saw it with Trey. You saw it with Jose to some degree. You saw players take their role in the rotation. Again, Jordan Hawkins starts the season kind of out of necessity in the rotation, has a little spell in Birmingham, comes right back, and he's not in the rotation. Well, Jose goes down. Najee has a couple bad games. Here's your opportunity to be in the rotation, and he seized it by the horns. And all of a sudden, you see how easy offense can look for this team when you got Trey Murphy, when you got Jordan Hawkins alongside your penetrators at the goal. And so, like, it was a growth mindset from both the stars in terms of Brandon Ingram and Zion taking what's given, growth mindset in terms of the staff in terms of here's your opportunity to seize that role. Now it's, how do you go from here? Once Jose is fully recovered and everything like that, and Najee is where Najee is, do you continue to let Jordan Hawkins and Trey kind of eat into those rotations? And we're not even talking about Matt Ryan, who apparently is getting closer and closer to return. Like, these are shooters that you can spread the court with at any given time. And so what was really alarming to me and what I was ready to see, and honestly, to be honest with you, I think if Draymond's in this game, in the middle of the second quarter, when the Warriors start to make their run and get some momentum, and we talk about CJ having those run-stopping baskets and things like that, if Draymond's in the game, I just don't know if he does something to either ignite the team, ignite the fans, ignite something, because that historically has been where the Pelicans struggle. When they've come out to a big league before. They've come out and led the Warriors before. But usually Draymond's in the mucking something up. The game turns from not being a basketball game to something else, and the Pelicans' youth is shown, and the Warriors capitalize this way. Well, there was no Draymond this time. So even though they made their run in the second quarter and kind of tried to at the beginning of the third, the Pelicans kind of had them at a Garrick Rattler stiff arm for most of for majority of the game. And so when you see those type of things, and we talk about, the late game execution, and you said it perfectly. If you don't have to get to the late game, if everybody's subbed out with 9 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, you don't have to worry about that problem. And so it was a great game all around. Again, you're liking to see the steps that you want this team to take. Okay, defense is your calling card. Bring defense every night. And the good thing about this, and the different thing about this Pelicans team, is that while they're beating the hell out of teams by 30 points or 35 points, they're also holding teams to like 100 points and 105 points. And so they're still bringing the defense night after night. What got them a lead was forcing turnovers in the first half, and that pretty much knocked the Warriors out of the game. And so they're bringing their calling card. But just like I said before, just because the defense of this team is the calling card, the ceiling for the offense is through the roof. With the amount of talent that they have, with the amount of bodies that they have, with the athleticism that they have, they should be, like we talked about, top 10 in both offense and defense. And lately, they've been trending that way. So before we dive into some of the themes that we've seen before the game, again, this is a reason probably why people in the lower South region enjoy listening to Antonio Daniels and Joel Myers call the games versus the national media. Before the game, instead of talking about how well the Pelicans have been playing, instead of talking about how they're finding their rhythm, the narrative was about how Zion was not where he needs to be and why he doesn't really want to be in New Orleans Again, I don't know how we keep getting back to this narrative. But here's my question to you. And again, no matter what Zion does, he could have scored 3,000 points tonight. He probably would have been on First Take tomorrow about something negative. No matter what he does, it's just he's a polarizing player. But here's my thing to you. With the narrative of Zion has to be Zion in order for the Pelicans to do anything, to make any noise, to go far in the playoffs. And how the Pelicans have played so far until tonight on nationally televised games. Do you think it's fair how Zion is viewed and talked about and criticized in the media, as well as the Pelicans that go with them? Because really, that's always the narrative. It's really Zion and really nothing else that has to do with the team. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it is really crazy when you sit down and you hear we really do live in a consuming sports society where, truth be damned, everybody has a side eye to like, are you telling the truth or are you not? Is this just public relations? And it really like, moves with the waves, right? And one day, what's my favorite quote? You either die a hero or you live to see yourself become the villain. One of my favorite quotes. Shout out to Harvey Dent in the Dark Knight, and it's true with Zion. Like, Zion can get in front of a camera. How many times has he got in front of a camera and say, "Listen, I'm here. I love this city. I play for the Pelicans. I love the Pelicans. I don't know why y'all keep saying I don't, but here we are." And then for other people to be like, well, that's not what you really meant. And then he says, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and sign a 5-year deal with the Pelicans that has no player option, and I'm also going to allow the Pelicans to include a weight clause in my contract. But I don't like this place. I hate it. I don't want to be here. I just don't want to be here. So when you see some of these the way that Zion is covered, I don't know if it's a question of being fair or not at this point. I think Zion and his career and his and how people outside of like the South and maybe his fans across the world, the way people view Zion and his Pelicans team, it's never gonna change until it does, right? And what I mean by that is that they have to change this. They have to change the narrative. They have to change the way people view them, and that's the Pelicans as well as Zion. And so, is it gonna be fair? For some people it is, for some people it isn't. I don't think that there's a subjective answer to that. But what I will say is that it's on the Pelicans, it's on Zion to change this. And the way they do it is to continue doing what they're doing and maintain consistency. We've seen, the Pelicans maybe not locked into this extent, but we've seen them go on some win streaks. We've seen them look really good. Well, we've seen them look really good, and then things happen, right? Like it's always the proverbial the other boot, the other shoe is going to drop. And so it's upon the Pelicans, it's upon Zion to continue playing like this and make these long playoff runs that Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown have made. And so they don't have the same questions, even though they've achieved it pretty much the same much as Zion and BI is talking about championship wise. You don't get those questions right now from Ant Edwards and Cat because they're winning right now and they were in the playoffs and and things like that. And so when you get into this, that's when you get into the big dance and you put some consistent things on, I think the narrative will take care of itself. What's important is that Zion, Brandon Ingram, and CJ, as well as Willie Green, seem to are finding themselves on the same page for the first time since like they've all been together, right? The big three as well as Willie Green. And so I don't know if it's ever going to be fair because, it's either you do or you don't, and you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't when it comes to Zion. But I think that's going to be the way that this gets handled. Zion and Brandon Ingram and CJ and Willie Green exonerating this narrative and things like that. Obviously, Zion has said it over and over again, and it obviously does not register with people. Or again, we live in a society where everybody has a side eye to everybody, so it's never going to be that answer. But they have to continue doing what they're doing. They're doing a great job of it right now. They are locked in, winning on the road and winning decisively, and they're winning in different ways. Where Zion and Bi are leading the team, and CJ is leading the team some games, and Trey and and Jordan Hawkins are now shooting the lights out, and Herb is hitting corner threes, and JV is doing. So the Pelicans are also shedding some of the stories. You don't really hear, are the Pelicans the middling franchise anymore? The stories used to be the Pelicans are the ones that are holding this team themselves back and holding Zion back and holding Brandon Ingram back. Now it's no longer that, because the Pelicans have shown some flashes in the pan. Now it's more like, okay, let's see what this team does. But for Zion personally, he's the polarizing figure. He's the superstar. He's the $1 million man, the max contract guy. He has to change the narrative around him by himself.
Right. And so far this season, again, hasn't missed very many games. I know he just came off a missed game, but hasn't missed very many games because of injury. You're absolutely right. Until you do something to change the narrative, all is fair game in love and war. So, again, all you can do is stack the wins and figure out where you're going to end at the end of the season. And it looks like that's what the Pelicans mentality is, that we are good with or without Zion, and Zion takes us over the top. And I think that's starting to click for himself as well. As he works himself into shape, you see the specialty of Zion starting to pop out. That being said, with that, the Pelicans offense is also turning the corner. What you're seeing is consistency, which, again, is something that every team is always striving for, but you're seeing them take advantage of the mismatch. CJ, in his pod earlier this week, came out and talked about sometimes their big three, CJ, Bi, and Zion, they had to come together and realize some nights is not your night. Some night is going to be someone else's night because they have the mismatch. We've been talking about this since the offseason. There are going to be nights where the mismatch is JV, like tonight, right? In that third quarter, they didn't have anyone to deal with JV. He was shooting threes in the first half. Kevon Looney got in trouble because he started hitting the Euros like he was Kareem. Then he comes back and starts beating them up in the paint when they go small. And sometimes, again, we talk about there's a short list of names outside of the elite centers in this league, of big men that are better than Jonas Valanciunas. So you need to use him as such. There was a time in this game where, and I want to ask this question to you, but there was a time in this game where the Warriors got something going because they put JV in the middle pick and roll. And we've seen what that looks like in drop coverage, and it's not pretty, right? But historically, the Pelicans have said, all right, we're just going to continue to get beat this way and not give JV the ball on the other side. Well, this time, JV was finding ways to score at the basket and not backing up and giving people different reasons to cover him other than I'm bigger than everybody else on the court. So with that being said, what do you think are some of the things have led to the turning the corner of this offense? Because it's looking more fluid. It's looking better. It's looking at something that's sustainable from game to game.
Yeah, I call it whack-a-mole. When the Pelicans get into whack-a-mole mode, it is a sight to see, because it's like you said, JV comes out and hits 2 threes back-to-back in the first quarter, and immediately I tweeted, I was like, well, if he's going to do that, then it's going to be a short night for Kevon Looney, and lo and behold, it was. But then you put Trace Jackson Davis, the rookie, out there because maybe he can help and close out on the three, and JV's like, wait, you're putting this child out here on me? And then he goes down, and then it's a wrap there. And so it's a great point by you. Like, sometimes that's going to be the matchup. And I think what has really turned this corner for the Pelicans, or what has helped them turn this corner, is that the stars are buying in. The stars are buying in. Brandon Ingram and Zion are moving the ball as well as like two perimeter wing nodding point guards in the NBA right now. Zion, the Pelicans were up like 30 points, and Zion was like 1 for 1 from the field. But he was dotting people up in ways that it makes it so difficult to guard Zion, because you see what happens in the full quarter when you're like, all right, we need to play these shooters, and Zion just explodes for 12 straight points. And it's like, well, I had to guard the shooter. And you could see, like I said, like you mentioned, I talked about this early in the season, preseason. Make people make bad decisions, and you saw bad decision. You're seeing bad decision on defense after bad decision after bad decision. You want to know why Trey Murphy and Jordan Hawkins are getting wide open threes? Because Brandon Ingram and Zion are supernova offensive talents, and CJ is one of the most respected professional scorers. They kept calling him that on the broadcast. And so when you have that kind of scoring prowess, like, you can score whenever, but it's different when the defense is expecting you to go full speed and come at them every single play. You saw Brandon Ingram get a charge earlier in the game because, as Jordan Hawkins flared, he was coming down on the or Trey Murphy flared. He was coming down and he went for a shot instead of hitting Trey earlier. He hit Trey later, but it was too late to pass it. You get that charge. Well, next time you come down, you hit him earlier and it's an open 3-point shot. And those are the things that the Pelicans are problem solving through. The Pelican stars are they're problem solving through all of that. You want to come up and play, Zion up on the pick, JV's down low by himself. You want to come out and double Zion on the hedge on the help. I'm hitting shooters. I'm hitting Jordan Hawkins. I'm hitting Trey Murphy. Brandon Ingram is shooting threes. CJ is on a freaking heater out of this world. And so this is what happens when Zion and Brandon Ingram buy into, okay, listen, we can get buckets whenever. Whenever I need to turn it on, I can turn it on. But let the game breathe. Let the game come to you. Find your shooters. Let them carry you for certain stretches where you're not going in every single play trying to shoot contested jumpers, trying to jump over 2 and 3 people to build a wall. You want to break a wall down, spread the defense out, and have those shooters hit shots. And also, somebody is in that offensive room cooking some things up, because I saw plays for Trey Murphy. Mm-hmm. I saw plays for Jordan Hawkins tonight. Of course, there's plays for CJ, but I think when we were talking about, is it alarming that Zion wasn't getting sets run for him? And listen, playoffs are a different level. You're going to need sets for that. But I think this is part of the reason why, like, the sets for Zion weren't not the most important thing for Willie at that point in time. Because if this team is healthy, like, Zion's points are going to come relatively easy. If this team is playing and you're playing the right rotations and things, that, like, you might not need a whole lot of plays for Zion. And so you're seeing it. You're seeing Zion play off instinct. Brandon Ingram is playing off instinct, and the shooters are letting it fly. And if Herb, I tweeted about it, Herb has found a spot. In that right corner, he is deadly. He shoots like 61% from the right corner. And when it comes to his 3-point shots. And so, like, if these guys are going to spread the ball around, and when the role players see you passing the ball to them and finding the shooters, they will run through a brick wall for you. They will play defense. They will go guard some of those people, some of those wings, hellaciously, and they'll get out in traffic and they'll look for you, because they know that if you're in a spot where you're looking for them, if the play is there. And so the offense is humming. I mean, it is a sight to behold. And the best thing about it is that all of these have been road games, right? You always talk about how, like, the role players shoot better at home. Well, Herb is shooting like 40% in this stretch. Like, Trey and Jordan Hawkins seems to like to shoot more on the road than he does at home. Like, it's just
no. He just likes to shoot. You could have stopped that.
Well, fair point. But it is something to watch. And I think the last thing you said about, like, Trey and Jordan Hawkins coming in the game over Najee and Jose, like, we talked about this last episode. Like, you started to see Willie kind of dabble with Dyson over Najee even when he's there. And now that Jose is back, and maybe he wasn't 100%, and, like, maybe they were like, he's available, but they don't really need him this game, so we'll see. But, like, Jordan Hawkins is showing that, like, he not only has the ability to spread the floor open and give Zion and BI and CJ some of these lanes, and JV as well, but, like, he hustles. He's running in front of everybody. He's always running in front of everybody. And I tweeted out about it. Like, when he runs and hustles like that, he's either taking 1 or 2 people with him, or he's running to a wide open spot. And either one of those plays is a positive play for the Pelicans. So the offense is humming. There's a lot of guys that are in a good groove and in a good rhythm, in a good space right now. And it's all about maintaining the consistency and leaning into, this is the way we play moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, when Herb Jones is going to shoot like this, over his last 10 games, he's averaging 40% from 3, and that's before going in tonight. If he's going to do that and be consistent from a spot, be confident when he shoots, that makes that Pelicans starting lineup, like you've seen it over the past, almost impossible to guard.
Your worst defender has to go somewhere.
Right.
He has to go somewhere. He can't go on JV because JV's too big, and like he can't guard CJ or BI or Zion, so he has to go somewhere. And if he's getting lost and Herb is getting shooting 40% from the corner and attacking without hesitation, then it's like, where does he go?
Exactly. And so something interesting that Doris brought up throughout the podcast, she said, look at this Pelicans roster. There's not a lot of holes, but one thing I could see is a defensive big man as someone who can protect the rim. Like we talked about, that part in the game where Larry Nance might not be the answer and JV might not be the answer. Do you have a big who can defend and move his feet from that standpoint? When you look at the Pelicans, you see why not only they're so difficult to match up with, but why they're so deep as a roster is because they have multiples. You talk about it. They've got multiple people who can be the lead scorer and be the main engine, be the main planet that you're operating around. They've got shooters in Matt Ryan, Trey Murphy, CJ McCollum, Jordan Harger. They've got defensive guys. What they don't have is a backup defensive center or athletic center outside of Larry Nance, who again has been injured for the majority of his career and not really had long stretches where he's been healthy. So if you're going into a deadline that's a month away, do you feel like it's a nice to have, it's a luxury, or it's a need to have in terms of having additional backup when you look at that backup five position?
I do think it's a need. It's a need. I do think it's a need. I still think it's a need. And, this is, the kind of like the hallmark of like good teams, right? If you are a good team and you're rolling and your team it seems to have some things figuring out, you're always looking to get better, right? You don't want to rest on your laurels. Look at the Celtics, right? The Celtics went and got Drew and Kristaps Porzingis before the season, and now they still on the trade deadline looking for people, looking for upgrades, and they got the best record in the NBA. And so, like, you never want to rest on your laurels because you're one injury away from, like the Alperen Sengun game or, something like that. And so, I still think that that's a need. I've talked about it a lot. If the Pelicans could get on the phone and call Daniel Gafford's agent or the Washington Wizards and say, listen, what will it take? I think he would be excellent. Obviously you don't want to, you'd have to figure out the trade. But I think you could get there if you need to. That guy is good. And I just think that the Pelicans, we've been talking about it. David Griffin mentioned shot blocking by name in the offseason, like by name. It wasn't like, oh, they need an athletic big. No, he said shot blocking, right? Rim protection. And so that is still not on the roster. And when you are this team that's figuring things out and rolling, you want to make sure that you're looking towards the worst case scenario, like looking towards, okay, what happens if this happened? How do we roll it that way? And listen, they've gotten really, really good wins in some of these games, but there's going to be a game where they're not shooting whatever percent, 900% from the 3-point line, and everybody's not hitting, and you're going to get into some of those close games. And then what happens at that point, right? Or what happens if JV is in foul trouble, and now you're back to relying on Larry Nance. EJ Liddell is starting to get some minutes in some of these blowouts, but I still don't think that the Pelicans are comfortable with that being the option. And so I still do think that the defensive-minded big behind JV and, side by side with Larry Nance, I think that that's still a need. I don't think that it'll affect the Pelicans a lot in the regular season, but I think that that's a move that you make with your eye on, the playoffs. And, if the Pelicans can still maintain this, they're gonna maintain this pace that they're on. They're gonna need to make sure that they're shoring up all of the weaknesses in their roster, the little that there are. And I think the defensive big is the one that is staring right in the face. But right now they're rolling. So, I think that you want to give this team more time to kind of breathe and see as they coalesce and get their best, the best version of themselves. But you definitely want to keep an eye on it on the market and see if there's a defensive big available that won't shake up the core or like the secondary core of the team. and make that move if it's there.
Right. And the thing that I look at is who do you have to go through to get where you want to go? Speaking of, the Pelicans played the Denver Nuggets on Friday. Listen, we just saw Cody Zeller versus Nikola Jokic in the NBA Finals. You don't want to go into the playoffs and have to go through a series of Denver with only JV, really, who can match up. Because I don't know if Larry Nance is going to be a good matchup for Nikola Jokic.
I do. It's not. He's not.
He takes advantage of smaller fives pretty easily from that standpoint. So you look at this matchup on Friday. Again, it's a big one. Denver's in the middle of a barn burner with Utah right now. They've been playing up and down, taking a couple losses recently, but they got Jamal Murray back. Aaron Gordon is back from his dog fight, whatever happened there. But it's a big game. Again, the Pelicans go from an ABC game on Wednesday or an ESPN game on Wednesday to an ESPN game on Friday. What are you looking for in this key that everyone's going to kind of have their eyes on? Because, again, you look at the front part of this road trip, and the Pelicans have been blowing people out. But now here's a real test of a team that's playing well, of a team that has the ability to get back to the promised land. What are you going to do on the road on the big stage? What are your keys to this matchup?
The defending champs, man. I mean, this is the litmus test. This is where you want to measure yourself, because these are the guys you're going to have to go through, right? Like, you've beaten the top 2 seeds, and the world champions are right in your face, staring you in the face. So, listen, you have to. My pillars of success for the Pelicans: come out defensively and make statements, right? Picking up at full court with Herb. And pressuring people that they're not comfortable walking up, setting up the offense and going through things. Keep the pressure up, because with the bevy of wings that the Pelicans have, they can make it really uncomfortable for a small guard like Jamal Murray. We just saw what they did to De'Aaron Fox. Like, those slender small guards, you can make. Herb can make, and Dyson and Najee can make it hell for them. I think it starts with the defense. That has to be on a string, because Denver may have one of the best starting fives, in the league, and maybe of all time, with the way that they fit as a gel. And so you have to make sure that you're rotating, you're helping the helper. The Pelicans are doing a phenomenal job communicating, helping the helper, hitting the high man and tagging him, but going back out to your man, helping and coming back and recovering. So the Pelicans have to continue to do that. The second thing is the ball movement, right? You have to make sure that you're moving the ball. You have to make sure that you're moving the defense, right? Jokic and Jamal Murray, you have some guys out there that you can get at, right? You can get at Jamal Murray. You can get at Nikola Jokic. And one thing we always we figure out early is that Zion can't really play that bully ball game with Aaron Gordon, because he has that unique kind of athlete, but size as well, right, where he can kind of, he can put him, put his chest in there, and Zion has some issues with that. And so, get into the ball movement, trust the shooters, just same way that you did tonight, the same way you've been doing in these road games. Move the ball and know that it's going to come back to you if it's there. Like, the Pelicans are in a high IQ kind of run right now, where they're making the perfect pass, the right pass, and trust that the team will continue to do that. So defense, ball movement, and of course, get as many threes up as you can. Like, I'm looking at this team right now, and they are on a heater. Like, spread the floor, continue to play Jordan Hawkins, continue to play Trey Murphy with Zion. That Zion plus shooters lineup is a issue. It is a problem. Because no matter what, Zion was 1 for 1 tonight, and every pair of eyes was on Zion every time he touched the ball. And so when you have a team that is predicated on ball movement like themselves, like the Denver Nuggets, you want to make sure that you're giving them that way, and you're spreading the floor out, and you're giving Zion ample opportunity to attack Jokic at the rim, and to make the plays and make the passes. So defense, ball movement, and 3-point shooting. I think if they can come into there and kind of play, to Pelican standard. Like, I don't know how many times, like, maybe I should expect the Pelicans to come out and play like this every game, because it seems like every road game, they're doing it. But I don't expect it to happen in Denver. Like, I don't expect it because Denver is who they are, and it's up, that altitude or whatever. But I do expect them to play at least Pelicans brand basketball. And if they do that, the Pelicans can match up with any team. And I think, Denver has been looking a little chinky in the army, in the armor. So I don't know. I don't know if they're playing their best basketball right now, but it looks like the Pelicans are. And so it's going to be a hell of a game because the Pelicans are rolling and all eyes are on the Pelicans now, right? ABC, you put the world on notice. And so now, can you do it again with the bright lights on you? But whatever happens there, guess what? We'll be in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So the thing that I would say is, first off, play to your advantages, just like you said. Yes, you have Aaron Gordon. Yes, you should let the game come to you. The last time JB matched up against Jokic, he gave Jokic just as much as he took back, right? And so make him work on that end. Don't go away from what you do well, because a championship team like Denver is going to try to take away what you do well. The other part is be ready to punch back. Denver is not going to go down like the Warriors did tonight or like the Kings did the other night. They're going to punch back. The Pels had a big lead earlier in the season when they went to Denver, and then they lost it because the Nuggets punched back by Julian Crawford, a rookie, right? Make sure you're ready for the blow, just like tonight. Keep them at an arm's distance if you get a lead. I want to see how the Pelicans weather through that and deal with adversity, because, again, you're not just looking at regular season. You're trying to take the experience that you don't have in the playoffs and try to learn some of it during the regular season, because you don't have time to gain it between now and then. And this is a game that you need to make sure you're up for, and make sure you're playing your best basketball for while you're on this heater. So I'm really interested to see that. But then the Pelicans go to Dallas for a home-and-home versus Kyrie and Luka. I think this is an important game, because if you win one or both of these games, the Mavs and the Pelicans have been jockeying for position for the past week or two in terms of being 4th, 5th, and 6th. You could put some separation between them, and you can win the season series. Remember, they're split 1-1 right now. And the way that the West is going right now, all these games and all these tiebreakers and all that is going to matter at the end. So what are you looking for out of that game when the Dallas has been playing better lately?
Absolutely. The two Dallas games are probably one of the most important, probably the most important games on this road trip, because like you said, you are like in position with them, and when the Pelicans win, they go up to 6 or 5, and then the Mavs win later that night, they go back up to 5. And so with Kyrie and Luka as locked in as they are, even though I think Luka missed tonight. I think he didn't play, not gonna play tomorrow or something like that. So keep an eye on that. But the way that those two guys are playing, like, they're gonna be a problem all season. So if right now, while you're on this heater, while you have everything locked in, if you could go in and steal 2 of those games, right? We saw the Pelicans lose a home and home in Utah. So like, it's possible to beat a team back to back, and get 2 dubs on them back to back. And so we saw the Pelicans do it against Sacramento, right? They beat Sacramento back to back. And so you can do this. And so go into there and win those 2 games. Now, like, you own the tiebreaker against the Mavs. And so now it's not so much about what the Mavs do. Now that's one less team that you're like, that you have your destiny in your hand. You don't have to watch the Mavs as long as you're winning games and doing what you're supposed to do. You don't have to worry and watch them, because you have that season series and you have those 2 wins on the road for them. So I think those are 2 of the biggest games on this road trip. I think if you come out once again and make it uncomfortable for Luka and make it uncomfortable for Kyrie, we've seen the Pelicans do it, right? We've seen them make it uncomfortable for Luka, especially Dyson, right? Dyson seems to really like to play Luka, and so if they can come out and make it difficult on them, and then attack Kyrie, attack Luka, put those guys in and pick and roll, put those guys in attack, use BI and Zion as the action, as the fulcrum of the offense. And I think the Pelicans are just a straight up better team than Dallas. And they need to look at this Dallas team like, man, we're better than them. We should beat them, just the same way they did with the Warriors, right? Obviously the Mavs are better than the Warriors this year, but I think the Pelicans are better than both of those teams, and they need to go out and show it. I think when we talk about ways to win and ways in winning, the Denver game, I think you need to win by ball movement and getting guys involved. One of those Dallas games is going to come down to Brandon Ingram and Zion and CJ versus Kyrie and Luka. And one of those games is going to call for Zion and Brandon Ingram or CJ, whoever it is out of those three. But it's going to call for Zion and Brandon Ingram to go and win the game and be superstars, similar to what we saw in Minnesota. And so I think these are going to be two different ways to attack, because I think Denver's a different. You have to kind of spread them out a different way than you do Dallas. But it's going to be very important. And the Pelicans have a huge opportunity in front of them to go in front of the national audience once again, as you just did for the Warriors, beat a Denver team, beat the world champs, and then turn around and beat Luka and Kyrie once or maybe twice on the road, to kind of stamp this kind of stretch that you're in right now. And so it is a huge weekend into next week for the Pels. And it's going to be a real, you're going to know some things after these next three games, where the Pelicans are and like how for real are the Pelicans this season.
You're absolutely right. We talked about January and the slew of games that they have. This is the Pelicans, the opportunity to show that we've arrived. And the way they've been playing so far for the games on these road trips outside of the Clippers game, they've shown that we have arrived. And so now is your opportunity, like you said, to put a stamp down and go make your run toward the top of the Western Conference. So with that being said, that's all we got with you today. Some big games coming up this weekend. What you got left for the people, Garrick?
As always, you never know what people are going through, so give someone a smile today. Like I said earlier, we'll be coming to you via X, Twitter, whatever, from Denver, and we're going to be there to see that game. Should be a tight one, should be a huge one. I'm looking forward to that game because, I mean, Jokic and the world champs versus this hot of a team on this heater. If you could go into Denver, into that altitude, into 5,280 feet in the air, and put on a show in front of the world, I mean, that I think that would get this city buzzing in a way that we haven't seen in a while. So as always, follow myself at Garrick_Rattler. Follow my brother at Raphael_Rattler. Follow the page at NO Basketball No E. That's on Twitter, Instagram, wherever you get your social medias. Most importantly, subscribe to New Orleans.basketball, and we'll